Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to L3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Yeah, so, I want to be addressing the topic, that high-profile case of Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of all 3 counts. And of course, people are on a high horse now and all that. I always got to question everything. Was the verdict done in good faith or out of fear? And I'm not going to recant what I said about some of the tactics like Derek Chauvin did, or has the Minneapolis Police Department ever visit Israel, be trained by the IDF and how to do these certain techniques. I'm not going to withdraw that by any means necessary. Okay, that will be double speak. And of course, even past history when about assault and battery and related deaths in Minneapolis itself. But sometimes you got folk opportunists out there who want to exploit the whole thing. What happened to that globalist scum queen from Los Angeles, Maxine Waters, the little demon that she is. If she was ever been in my town, I'll chase her rear end out. If she stumbles, I don't care. Remember, she's voted for, she's the co-sponsored HR 1111, which if the United States goes up in a insurrectional war or civil war, she wants to bring, that bill will bring the UN peacekeeping troops and seizing people's firearms. That's the kind of person you want in your community. I don't know why the people in Minnesota or the area didn't chase that piece of sap out of there. That woman's not more than cancerous. But those are the things I question on the verdicts. Like I said before, everything I addressed in my past episodes, I'm not going to omit. So, let's just do a little report reading here from the reason.com. Derek Chauvin found guilty of murdering George Floyd. Jury convicts on all charges. It is by Scott Shackford. Jurors found this afternoon former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin guilty of murdering George Floyd in an encounter that led to widespread national protests, riots, and policing youth reforms. After about 10 hours of deliberation, jurors found Chauvin guilty of a second-degree unintentional murder, killing Floyd unintentionally as a result of assaulting him, guilty of third-degree murder, acting dangerously and without regard of human life, and guilty of second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence that risked causing death or harm. And it's interesting, is like how I read this. Like, did you kill this guy 3 times? You know what I'm saying? There's some few questions on that, so I'll continue on. Under Minnesota law, the most serious charge is second-degree unintentional murder. It's like, yeah, I killed him, but it was unintentional. It's like, what the hell? Poses a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Though sentencing guidelines show Chauvin likely facing around 12 years. Third-degree murder has a maximum sentence of 25 years. Second-degree manslaughter is punishable by a maximum sentence of 10 years. In May 2020, Chauvin attempted to arrest Floyd for allegedly trying to purchase cigarettes at a local store with a counterfeit bill. During a confrontation that was captured on video by bystanders as well as police body cameras, a resistant, seemingly panicked but non-violent Floyd ended up onto the pavement next to a police SUV where Chauvin knelt on his neck, pinning him to the ground for more than 7 minutes. Floyd complained multiple times that he couldn't breathe and then lost consciousness. He stopped breathing and paramedics were unable to revive him. Subsequent medical examination determined that his death was a homicide caused by a cardiac arrest to his subdural. But Floyd also had fentanyl in his system. though that Floyd was under the influence of fentanyl, hopefully I pronounced that right, will be used particularly by Chauvin's defense to argue that the amount of force to make this arrest was justified under a common and debunked claim by law enforcement officers that drug use confers superhuman strength, thus calling for such heavily physical responses. The seemingly casual way that Chauvin pinned Floyd to the ground as he died became an iconic image and rallying cry for police reform, particularly in the way officers interact with black people. Protest letters of hundreds of proposed policing reforms across the country, only a few dozen passed, some focusing on rules, the use of force and bans of certain types of neck restraints that cut off circulation. Chauvin was fired the very next day after Floyd's death, and several police chiefs and police unions decried his tactics, said that the kneeling technique was an inappropriate use of force. But whether Chauvin was criminally responsible for Floyd's death needed to be determined by a jury. 2 weeks trial ended today with a jury determining that Chauvin is criminally culpable for Floyd's death. So, but like I said before, when you watch the people going out up in arms, rallying, and you got loudmouth Maxine Waters telling you gotta command guilty, like trying to like be like their outside advisor. I don't know if the jury heard or not, but the judge was not very pleased. The jurors should have their own conscience and do deliberate everything in good faith. So this could be possible obstructions, distractions, whatever you want to call it. Based on this information, yeah, but is he completely guilty of all? Is he guilty of all three counts? That is people got to think about. Rather it was done in good faith or fear. And I'm expecting Chauvin to appeal it on those areas. He'll take the initiative on look at the transcripts, and there's even claims even the attorney they have is a little bit mediocre. You have to expect that too. So that's one of the areas, like I said, everything's got to be done correctly. Remember, I talked about the one case that one deputy for Palm Beach shot that one gentleman running away. He found guilty of manslaughter. He tried to use stand your ground. I'm like, man, that's irrelevant. Yeah, I'm fair about this. The Chauvin deserves time, yeah, but make sure it's done honorably. Because when you have a mob out there and have people hooting and hollering, exploiting the whole thing, that is a dangerous presence, folks. Extremely treacherous for society, because it can happen to any of us. Especially when you got folks like Joe Biden talking about systemic racism, and NFL Experience is talking about this. All these sports channels, ESPN. What the hell's going on here? A form of mind control is what you're seeing. Remember, they did that with horrific events of September 11th. Socially engineered. Get everyone thinking. Possibly fighting amongst each other. In due time, we expected him to get an appeal. He has that right, regardless of whether you like him or not. It's fun because I was like reading this article here, browsing through the Insider, and it's going to talk about what they know. 18 complaints. Came out today, by the way. No, came out last year. Last year? Actually, that's strange. I see 2020. It's happened in May. 18 complaints in 19 years and murder conviction. What we know about ex-Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. Actually, Michelle Mark made a clerical error. And of course, when he was, he's a 19-year veteran, Minneapolis Police Department, left behind a trail of misconduct complaints and a reputation for aggression, according to police records and those who knew him. Most people didn't know his name until May 25th when he pinned George Floyd to the ground during arrest, crushing his knee into Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes. But the world was familiar with Chauvin by April 20th, 2021, when the jury convicted him of all charges: second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter. So you had to look at all those areas too. It was funny because I'll just stop from here. Because even if you all watch those video cameras too from the police, he got handcuffed. He couldn't breathe in the vehicle. Couldn't breathe out here. He had to lay down. So he wasn't all there. Mr. Floyd wasn't all there, which is disturbing too. That's why you always gotta observe, you know. But of course, the whole thing about the $20 bill. Of course, hours for his death, footage of Chauvin's neck restraint has garnered national attention and reignite rolling debate over police brutality. Of course, he was charged and arrested and all that. I'm just like skimming through here. They try to use the whole race card, both living in the Twin Cities, and they even work at the same nightclub. Both of their lives intertwined in the deadly instance of police brutality. Their experiences couldn't have been further apart. Of course, according to Chauvin here, he was a security. A life beyond his work as a cop. Those known about Chauvin's life beyond his work as a cop and security guard. Public records show that Chauvin, 44, lived in St. Paul suburb of Oakdale, which 77% white. So you see, they try to use this whole ethnicity. So of course, they like to exploit it. Go figure. Mainstream newspapers. He was among 92% of the Minneapolis police officers who lived outside the city limits. And I'll be right back, so stick around. Alright, had to take a quick leak. I'll continue on here. What else did I say here? He was among 92% of the Minneapolis police officers who lived outside the city limits, according to Star Tribune. Police reform advocates have long said that cops who don't live in the communities the police might not be able to fully understand or connect with residents. Of course, it happens a lot, even with Ferguson, so you can use that as an example. It happens a lot, so they only live in the community, so can't really interact with the people around them. He started his career as a police officer in 2001 at the age of 25, after working as a security guard and a McDonald's cook. Plus served as a military officer for 4 years, stationed in Rochester, Minnesota, and Honnefeld, Germany. Heavily redacted personal records obtained by Star Tribune indicate that Chauvin grew up in the St. Paul area and attended Park High School in Cottage Grove, just 10 miles south of St. Paul. Cottage Grove is 83% white. See, they only use this race card, okay? Good grief. Wow. Has nothing to do with that. It's gonna be merits, okay? Meritocracy. But they only use the whole ethnicity, but it's be meritocracy. Come on, folks. Walter Williams right now be rolling in his grave, all right? He didn't graduate high school, but he eventually got his GED and attending several community colleges in Minnesota. Minnesota State University. In a statement last week, the school confirmed that Chauvin graduated in 2006 with a bachelor's degree in law enforcement and condemned his conduct. So they condemned his conduct. Interesting there. Of course, his wife, or a strange wife, of course, Kelly Chauvin, who has filed for divorce and requested to change her last name, described him as such a gentleman. Her 2018 St. Paul Pioneer Press profile. Under all that uniform, he's just a softie. He told the local paper then, she still opens the door for me. He still puts on my coat for me. After my divorce, I had a list of must-haves if I weren't ever to be in a relationship, and he fit all of them. The attorney representing Kelly, or Ms. Chauvin, told CNN she was devastated by Mr. Floyd's death Her utmost sympathy lies with his family. Chauvin, who has 2 children from a previous marriage, asks that people respect their privacy. So he's a family man too. So I know that does affect an individual as well. So I'm going to continue on here. Derek Chauvin drives away, has been vandalized. Chauvin's driveway has been vandalized in recent days with red paint and graffiti spelling out murderer or exploitation, of course. Chauvin's record as a police officer in Minneapolis was littered with allegations of misconduct and excessive force. 18 complaints were filed against him over his 19-year career, as according to CNN and Insider's Haven. Rachel Agrestis. Only 2 of those complaints were closed with discipline. No details, one remains unclear. A Minneapolis woman, Melissa Barton, told the LA Times she filed one of the complaints in August 2007 that ended with a formal letter of reprimand against Chauvin. Barton said Chauvin and another officer pulled her over as she was returning home from grocery stores with her infant. The officers approached the car, reached inside without a word, unlocked her door, pulled her out, and pulled her back in the police cruiser, she said. Told the newspaper that Chauvin and the other officer released her roughly 15 minutes later without an explanation. The reason for the traffic stop, Barton had been driving over 10 miles over the speed limit. Records obtained by the Times said that Chauvin was later told that he did not have to remove complaint from car. The other 60 complaints against Chauvin were closed without discipline. The Minneapolis Police Department hasn't released any details about complaints or why they were closed. So according to this, Chauvin had a reputation for combative exchanges, but he also had a few accolades over his 19-year career. Chauvin was also praised at various points in his career. According to the Star Tribune, 2 women commended him in 2008 and 2013 after he handled domestic violence calls. He was awarded the Medal of Commendation in 2008 after he disarmed a man during one of his nightclub security shifts. He was even recommended for a Medal of Valor in 2006 in the connection of the fatal police shooting of Rain Rees. According to the Star Tribune, 6 officers shot at Rees while responding to a report that he had stabbed 2 people. The police said they opened fire. After Rees pulled out a shotgun. Rees' daughter, Lynn, told the Washington Post that she was horrified to see Chauvin's name surface again in the news. I already knew what kind of monster that man is, she said. All I could feel was heartbreak that it has happened again. So, the report said it was unclear which officers fired at Rees and what Chauvin's involvement was. Chauvin's combative reputation wasn't limited to his policing career. Maya Santa Maria, the former owner of El Nuevo Rodeo, the Latin nightclub where Chauvin worked, told BuzzFeed News that Chauvin was nice, but he would overreact and lash out quickly. So he does have those jump the gun moments. Santa Maria said that she noticed that Chauvin's demeanor would change during special events for black communities. She added that she had reprimanded him before he used pepper spray on patrons. His face, attitude, posture would change when we did urban nights, she said. Benjamin Crump, an attorney for Floyd's family, has suggested that Floyd and Chauvin crossed paths at the nightclub, but Santa Maria told KSTP, an affiliate ABC in St. Paul, that she wasn't sure they ever met. So we'll just say as a claim, we'll just leave it at that. And of course, 17 minutes after the first police cruiser pulled up, Floyd lost unconsciousness as Chauvin pinned his neck to the ground. Of security footage and witness videos found. That's from the New York Times, which I'm not too crazy about them. The first officers arrived were Thomas Lane and J. Alexander Hewing, who approached Floyd's car, ordered him out, and handcuffed him. In video footage, Floyd appeared calm, but when the officers tried to bring him to the cruiser, he fell to the ground. So, and it was fun because I saw that other video footage in those areas before they put him on the ground, he couldn't breathe. So you gotta look at that too, folks. An arrest affidavit said Floyd had told them that he wasn't resisting arrest, but was fearful of getting back in the cruiser because he was claustrophobic. Not long after, Chauvin arrived with another officer, Tao Diao. Video was taken by bystanders to show that Floyd was not resisting arrest when Chauvin first put his Floyd's neck, and that Chauvin refused to move his knee after Floyd passed out, despite numerous people urging him to stop. Throughout the nearly 9 minutes, Floyd was trapped under Chauvin's knee. He called out for his mother and said he thought he was going to die. "I can't breathe," Floyd said. The phrase has become an anthem for the thousands of protesters who have taken to the streets across the U.S. in recent days. What could happen next? One day after Floyd's death, the Minneapolis Police Department announced that all 4 officers involved had been fired. A little more than a week later, prosecutors announced that all officers have been criminally charged. Meanwhile, Chauvin and other 3 officers involved in Floyd's death remained in jail. Experts say that the prosecutors likely have a long road ahead in securing an airtight case that will take all 4 men to trial. Former prosecutors told Inside that even the video showing Chauvin's knee kneeling on Floyd's neck appeared clear-cut, that was still a mountain of evidence prosecutors were likely to be going through to establish their case against him. Body camera footage, surveillance videos from nearby businesses, interviews and witnesses and bystanders, and the full autopsy will all be necessary to bring the 4 officers to trial, assuming they plead not guilty to the charges. George Floyd mattered. He was loved. His life was important. His life had value. We will seek justice for him and for you. We will find it, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said on Wednesday, after all 4 officers were booked into the Hennepin County Jail. Well, looking at the past history, incidences that were reported, footage, etc. So that's why I see those. That's why in my early episode I talked about discrepancies, and based on the hooting and hollering by loudmouths and opportunist demonads, those are distractions. And I'll say this to folks: you chase those vultures out. And that's why I was real critical about it. Because that's one big disturbing presence that can burn any of us. And starting in Minnesota. Bring a mob, hoot and holler, harass, taunt people. That's what comes down to it. And that is form of a French Revolution, Marxist Revolution, whatever you want to call it. Guilty to proven innocent. I don't buy that at all. Now, I always said to Chauvin, he's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. So the question I always tell people, is the verdict done in good faith or out of fear? We'll find out in this appeal when that time comes. And whatever you do, folks, don't listen to all these political pundits, dipshits, excuse my language, but even President Biden talking about it's all a malarkey, irrelevant garbage. That's all it is. And has Chauvin done this to himself? Yeah, you can say that. But how accurate is the case? That's the question too. So, do your own homework. Study the transcripts and judge for yourself. I gotta do it. So, like I said, do it honorably, not with exploited manifestation. Alright, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening, but feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or interested in check out whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these articles on my speaker page. And if you want to email me, hit me at LookYourLuck03@protonmail.com, or donate, you can get me at paypal.me or cash.app/LookYourLuck3. And if you want to send your donations and support the reason.com, that would be awesome. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Please always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. Ooh, sorry about that. And may your guardian spirits be with you.